Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This is going to be part one of a two-part thing really. What I decided to do was try and implement dual SIDs in this C64. Now in the first instance I couldn't get hold of one of the dual SID boards, the PCB boards. There's a chap, I forget where he lives, it might be Finland or the Netherlands, I forget exactly where. I'll post a link down below actually to his page. I've contacted him a few times, he just doesn't respond, so I don't know whether my emails are getting blocked by the spam filter or what, but he does batches of these dual SID boards periodically, a couple of times a year. I think the last one sold out sort of earlier this year, so I missed out on that. But the other option was to go with, I forget what it's called, there's like a Messiah cartridge you can get, which has a SID to SID board, which is, I think the idea behind that is, it is a dual SID board, but it's, the addresses I think configured separately. You know, there's no jumpers on there to start changing the address that the second SID uses. And I'm sort of sidetracking myself here actually. I'll come back onto that in a minute anyway. And that will be the follow-on video really, the SID to SID stuff. So I've ordered one of those boards. That'll be a separate video, an actual physical second SID. But what I've done here, because I've got the Ultimate, the 1541 Ultimate 2. Just go to the settings here. You can see I'm on firmware 2.6K. Now the Ultimate 2 supports an alternate version of the 2.6K firmware, and I guess it might be just worth just explaining how you upgrade that actually. If you go to the web, I think it's on one of the wikis, again I'll post the link down below to the firmware. You need to get the 2.6K audio firmware, because I think there's a standard one with dual drive support, 2.6K, and then there's the audio, Ultimate Audio mod 2.6K. And what you end up doing is, if I press Shift F1 to go Shift F2 effectively into the settings, you'll see here, if we go into audio output settings, you've got there's more settings here than normally. Normally you just see, on the standard 2.6K firmware, you just see the left and right channel output there, and it just relates to like which disk drive is on which channel, etc. But on this 2.6K audio firmware, you've got SID left and SID right, and you can change the type from, as you can see, combined waveforms there, 6581 or an 8580, and you can swap them around, so you can decide which types of chips you want on each channel. You can change the base address there. As you can see, they're both set to Snoop on D400, which is where the standard SID resides. And I've gone this approach initially and used an 8580. You'll see that the left SID actually is disabled at the moment. So the way I've got this wired physically is I've got, I'll show you actually if I can. There's a 3.5mm, you can see it here, 3.5mm wire comes off and it goes to two phonos. So the second SID, the one I'm using, is going to the, I think the the left hand channel on my TV, and then the normal audio that comes out my connector here, that's also a phono / RCA jack, and that's going to the other channel on the TV. So I have got a physical SID on the right hand channel and a virtual SID using the 1541 Ultimate here on the left channel. Yeah, all will become clear hopefully. You might not be able to tell very well on this video really, because we're going off the camera here, and there is a bit of a volume balance mismatch, I guess, because the physical SID is not quite as loud as the virtual SID, but it still sounds absolutely awesome. And there are a few other things worth pointing out while I'm here as well. Not only does this support dual SID emulation, if I go down to the mode here, you'll see there's 4 voices or 8 voices. So effectively it's like simulating 2 SIDs at the same time. So effectively this can, as far as I can understand, it's not very well documented. I'd appreciate if anyone can point me in the link, in the direction of any guides or tutorials on this. But it's just not very well documented how all this stuff works in here and what you actually get and stuff, and even how you update the firmware and stuff. It took me a while to work it all out. And I've sidestepped myself a little bit. I was going to describe how you upgrade the firmware. So yeah, get the firmware from the link down below, the audio, 2.6K audio. It's a bin file, I think it's something like update.bin, and you just stick it in the root your SD card, stick your SD card in, switch your system on, and it will automatically come up with like an update screen. Now I think default it gives you a bit of a cryptic message there. It's like, do you want to update yes, no, or force or something? If you don't choose force, because it's the same version of firmware, it only updates a few parts of it, and it doesn't actually, well, it didn't for me anyway. At the end of that process, it said it had done it, it said press reset. I pressed reset. You've got to then take your SD card out, remove the update.bin, otherwise you go back around the update loop again. And at that point I went to the settings and these options were not here, even though I'd just gone through the entire firmware update end to end. The only difference was I didn't, the only thing that I didn't do was I didn't choose force, because let's say if it was a newer version it would automatically upgrade it, but because it's on the same version it seemed to upgrade some things but not the main core of the FPGA. I think that was what was going on. So I went through it a second time, chose this time to force it. It did a lot more, it took longer. I could see started lower down in terms of the address range or whatever it was. There's a lot more blocks of data transferred across, and and then it was okay. And then as you say, go into the settings here now, and you can see this. And if I come back out of this page, we'll go down back into the settings again, down to 1541 drive A. You'll see there's no drive B. So that's how this works. You sacrifice a second drive at the option of the additional audio stuff. So I'm quite happy with that. I've never used the second drive, and I probably would never use it anyway. I'm quite happy to just pop back into the the NMI menu here to change to a second disk if I need to, rather than stick one in drive 8, and one in drive 9, etc. So anyway, if I reset this now, we'll load. I'll go back into the menu again. Actually, we'll load. Oh god, don't want to disable that drive. Let's get out of there. We'll load a soundtrack. Sorry, going in circles here, aren't I? There we go. We're going to this music folder. I'll post a link to this as well. Actually, this HVSC collection, because there's a lot, actually a ton of fantastic music tracks in here. Let's load Golden Axe because that's quite cool. And one of the things you'll note here, you might not be able to hear it very well. I might try and, if I can, capture some of this directly. So we'll load Golden Axe here now. The other thing worth pointing out with this, whilst they're both listed on the same base address, that means basically effectively the left SID is doing exactly what the right SID is doing. Now you would think that would just, you wouldn't gain anything by that. But you kind of get a pseudo stereo effect where certain frequencies come from the left side and other ones come from the right hand side. Some stuff seems central. You get spatial type stuff going on just because of the differences in timing and obviously the different frequency handling characteristics of the two different SIDs as well. Now that's going to be more evident in my second video, I think, once I get a physical 8580 in here. But you can still hear it. There are certain games where it just totally blows you away. So I'll just start this up now. Let's have a listen to this. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's coming across, but there's a kind of spatial thing going on there with the main sort of background chord type thing. That's really sweet, it really is. Yeah, you get clear, definitive sort of direction for some sort of sounds and instruments and things. It's weird how it separates from channel to channel. You have left and right. Let's just try something else. There's so many good soundtracks actually by this artist. In fact, if you're not aware, he's done a Indiegogo campaign. I've just signed up to that actually to get a signed CD from him. The author's redoing some of these, remixing some of these original tracks. This is a classic. Fantastic, just awesome. I can't listen to Cybernoid 2 without listening to Cybernoid 1. Let's give that a go. Yeah, emulating a 6850 here just brings so much frequency back that the 6581 is lacking. Yeah, it's awesome stereo effect there. It's fantastic. The difference is just like night and day. I've listened to these, I've gone back to listening to these in mono, and I wouldn't go back to a single SID after this. It's just, you get the best of both worlds, because you're getting the 6581 sort of stuff, and you're also getting the 8580 stuff. I think the other thing to be said here is the emulation that's implemented on the 1541 Ultimate is fantastic. It really is fantastic. It's as good as any software emulator out there. It might not be able to handle the frequency, the low pass filters and things quite as effectively as some of the software emulators, but I tell you, I'm blown away with how good the emulation is on this Ultimate 2. It really is just fantastic. Let's go back one. Let's just load Damned Air 3, that's quite cool. Major stereo stuff going on again there. I can hear the 8580 picking up a lot of those higher frequency sounds. That's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, you might not get the spatial stuff going on here with the camcorder. I'm hoping it does record like this, but just sat here now, despite there's a volume imbalance scenario going on here, I can definitely hear spatial stuff, and direction. It's brilliant. Right, we'll just load one or two more. I'm just going to find some of the Jonathan Dunn stuff, because so many good artists on the C64. Really, there are. Gone the wrong way. I don't want D. Jonathan Dunn, there we go. Now, I'm going to post some more links down below that are worth checking out if you're interested in multi-dual SID stuff, because there was a channel that actually got me looking at this to start with. There was two actually. There's GeoNAS. I've been watching his channel for a reasonable amount of time. He's got loads of good stuff. He does loads of arcade PCB sort of restores and cleanups and things. But he also is a big C64 fan as well. And he's got a dual, I think it might even have a treble SID setup. So watching his channel got me kind of interested in this stuff to start with. But I also watched just recently another channel which I forget the name of. I apologise in advance, but I will put a link down below. Check out this other channel. And he's done loads of comparison, video captures, if you like, audio captures of dual SID stuff. I think on physical dual SID captures. And this game is the one actually that really kind of convinced me that there's value in doing this and sticking them on the same base address, not just because there's two different ways, and I sidestep myself again here. There's two different ways of doing this. These are both configured. Both SIDs are configured to use the same base address. So you're going to get the same. They're both going to do the same thing at the same time effectively, but because of, let's say, timing differences and frequency handling characteristics, they're going to behave differently. But the other way you can do it is you can change the base address of one of them, and then using specific software you can play two SID tracks at the same time effectively. So get 6 channels, or is it 8 channels? I forget how many there are. These is it 3? Does the SID provide 3 channels or 4? I forget. But you get effectively like 2 dual proper stereo channel music. So if you get particular tracks that have got dual SID built into them, you gain significantly because you get a load more different audio tracks at the same time. You get proper stereo effectively. Or in the case of a 3 SID setup, you get like 3 times the amount. But anyway, let's have a listen to this now. Yeah, the spatial stuff on this is highly noticeable. That kind of like background swinging sort of noise that goes in and out. It just sounds amazing. Yeah, it just blows me away every time I hear it. It sounds so good. Anyway, there's not much more to say about this now. I'll turn that down a little bit while I just close this video up. I will do the following video when I get the SID to SID board. I'm going to do some modifications to that board because, anyway, I'll cover that in a later video. And the other thing I guess worth saying here is, the emulation, just to echo what I said a few minutes ago, the emulation is just fantastic on these 1541 Ultimate 2s. It's way better than the Nano Swin SID. It puts the Nano Swin SID to shame, really. It really does. I mean, they work in a completely different way. Granted, this is using an FPGA, so the emulation is bound to be a lot more accurate because you're not going to have the timing problems and artifacts and things associated with using a microprocessor or a microcontroller like the Nano Swin SID does. Because they don't think there's a PLL or anything on there. There may well be. It may be using a PLL on that, but it's you've just not got the same issues, and the FPGAs tend to run a lot faster. Generally, the response is much quicker. And that's certainly evidence. Gideon's done a fantastic job of the emulation. I don't know whether he's done it on his own, whether he's borrowed some of the code from one of the other projects there, from another developer or something. But however it's been done, he's just done a fantastic job. I'm not as worried as I was previously. Now I had this sort of fear in the back of my mind, thinking, "Oh God, all the SIDs are going to die one day." But with the 1541 Ultimate, the emulation is so good that. I can't tell the difference, if I'm completely honest. Maybe the low pass filter stuff's not quite as good on the 6581 side of the emulation there. And if I'm fair, if I'm completely honest, maybe the 8580 frequency handling is not quite as good as it is on an actual 8580. And I say that because I've loaded Short Circuit as an example on my real C64C. And that blows you away, the difference between how it sounds on a 6581 and a physical 8580. But when you play that same game on the emulated version of the 8580, it's 50% as good. There's something not quite there with the high frequency handling side of things. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's too much of filtering going on than there shouldn't be. I honestly don't know, but there is a difference, and hopefully I'll be able to show that in the next video. I might do a comparison. In the next video I'll do a comparison between a single SID, virtual, and physical dual SID, just like this, and then I'll do a comparison to two physical SIDs, a 6581 and a physical 8580, on that particular game, and you should be able to hear noticeable differences between the 3 different comparisons there. Anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.